RWBY Grimm Eclipse. You either love it or you despise it. I haven't seen very much of a middle ground when it comes to this game. I've seen people who have no problem with it whatsoever, and I've seen people who absolutely hate it. So instead of taking a side blindly, let's take this game apart and see for ourselves.
Hey, it's Paul. Listen, I just got a call from the label.
RWBY Grimm Eclipse is a hack-and-slash fighting game, even though that style of fighting might not fit the series too well. In RWBY, and this is talking about the show, there is no such thing as a repetitive fight scene. There's always something different going on. However, in RWBY Grimm Eclipse, it's the same two attacks being repeated until the Grimm around you die. No, seriously. Aside from the ultimate attack, there are two attack buttons. There are two. Speaking of ultimate attacks, RWBY's ultimate attack is the only ultimate attack in the game that doesn't completely suck. Yang's ultimate would be actually very useful if it didn't have a blast radius of one actual foot. Blake's ultimate, it's her cloning ability, which isn't very good at fighting enemies at all. Weiss's ultimate is just flat out useless no matter what you do with it, if you upgrade it or not. RWBY's ultimate is the only one that's actually somewhat effective. What are the enemies like? Good question. You start out fighting the regular Grimm you'd see in the show, Ursas, Beowulfs, etc. Then when you hit Chapter 2, these weird neon-looking Grimm start showing up, and instead of their color scheme being the normal black, red, and white, it's blue and green instead of red. They're also annoying as all hell. Yes. There is a certain large Beowulf that pops up a lot around Chapter 2 to the end. One of the weird ones. And it's the bane of my existence. It's not that it's hard to fight against at all. You can easily avoid it by just jump dashing around. It's just that it has so much health and it takes forever to kill, and that can mean disaster for your aura meter because this guy is going to catch you. Later on in the story, particularly around Chapter 8, you start to come across these robot guys with lances. If there's one of them, it's a piece of cake. There is no difficulty in taking out one. If there's two of them, it is hell on earth. Because these guys, they won't leave you alone. In order to get away with them, you have to, again, jump dash around. And that is very hard to do because their attack range is more broken than that of Winston. And that's pretty broken. They're especially annoying when paired with that Beowulf from before, a pairing that actually comes up quite a bit later in the game. That's really all the enemies there are. None of them are really hard to fight against. It's just that there are so many of them, and, that is pretty common in a game like this, but still it becomes tedious. The final boss is a Deathstalker, a giant mutant Deathstalker. It wouldn't be hard at all if it was just the Deathstalker. The majority of the difficulty in the fight is the enemies that are thrown at you while you're trying to fight the Deathstalker. They distract you from killing it, and while you're trying to focus on killing the enemies that are bugging you, the Deathstalker kills you. Took me about 8 tries to beat the final boss on even normal difficulty. The gameplay is a bit repetitive and tedious.
And you're probably not going to be surprised, but Michael Jackson's...
I'm actually not completely sure how this game ties into the story, or even when it happens exactly. Apparently sometime between volumes 2 and 3, which I guess makes sense because there was no indication of anything actually happening between those 2 volumes, except for the Vital tournament being set up. Even though the events of the game are never mentioned again, even though they seem to be actually pretty relevant. The story goes a little something like this. Team RWBY goes on a mission through the Emerald Forest, as you do, where there's been security issues for some unexplained reason. This reason is explained very quickly as someone has hijacked these security systems. They also find strange cages that, conveniently, are the exact same size as the Grimm they've been kicking the shit out of for the entire show. These cages have a logo on them of a company that had apparently been defunct for years, named Merlot Industries, whose primary facility was in Mountain Glen. They go to Mountain Glen to investigate because apparently the academy part of Beacon Academy is non-existent now. Shouldn't they have, like, classes or something? Upon arriving there, they fight Grimm, real shocker, and this causes the entire place to collapse around them. Remember those underground ruins that should have been almost completely destroyed in Volume 2 by that explosion? Yeah, they're completely intact. Somehow. Bomb. Did I mention a bomb? Yeah, there's a bomb. Somehow, someone knew they would be in that exact place at that exact time, and there just happened to be minecart rails there because convenience, right? They get the cart across the ruins and into a large chasm, which they drop the bomb into. Somehow this doesn't destroy the entire area around it, thus the platform that Team RWBY is standing on, thus killing all of Team RWBY, but let's move on. While they're doing all that shit with the bomb, they come across these. They're pretty much the love child of a creature of Grimm and a pair of Jordans. After all that, they go to Forever Fall, which I'm pretty sure is that place where they had that incident with the honey, and attempt to infiltrate a cargo ship that mysteriously is owned by the exact same company that owned those cages from before, which is confusing, considering, again, they've been defunct for years, and this cargo ship is currently operating. This cargo ship arrives on a remote island where Team RWBY gets off somehow undetected and starts activating the radio towers there because the damn island doesn't get any 4G. Shoulda chose Verizon! Once they regain connection, this dude comes on and introduces himself as Dr. Merlot. Wait a minute! Dr. Merlot? You mean Merlot Industries? You see where this is going? And then Osmond comes on for some reason and starts talking to the guy, and you have to wait for them to be done before you can move on in the chapter. So basically, Merlot was doing experiments and shit on Grimm, and I guess he killed too many of them and ran out, so he decided to attract Grimm to where he was, which ultimately ended up in said Grimm tearing Mountain Glen apart because they're Grimm. And that's why Mountain Glen's a shithole, kids. Team RWBY goes into Merlot's lab, fighting Grimm, more Grimm, and a lot of these robot fuckers, and then they make it to a testing lab where Merlot unleashes this big-ass Death Stalker on them. Not recommended for single player, by the way. They kill it, and Merlot self-destructs his lab, so Team RWBY leaves. That's it. There's no proper ending. They just Kill la Kill has a better ending than this. Yeah, the story could have been done much better.
He's extremely upset about the Just Lose It video, and, I mean, he's pissed.
The only thing this game needs to do is look like the show in terms of graphics, and this game nails that. It looks just like an episode of RWBY. I also love some of the 2D visuals used for the character icons. They look like they're out of a hand-drawn anime, which I think is really cool. In all honesty, there isn't that much to say about the graphics. That's really all they needed to do was keep true to the look of the show, and they did that well. Moving on.
So, I don't know what he's going to do, but we got to talk about how we're going to handle this.
The soundtrack is a very similar case to the visuals. The soundtrack is nothing less than what you'd hear in a regular episode of RWBY. And I'm not saying it doesn't kick ass. This game's soundtrack kicks ass on the same levels the show does. An entirely new Jeff Williams song was composed and recorded for this game, titled Lucis Naturae. I hope I'm saying that right. I love the dark twist they put on the song compared to the other songs from RWBY's soundtracks. This one has a haunting piano intro that morphs straight into your usual RWBY metal song. That's really all I have to say about the soundtrack. Very good soundtrack.
Oh yeah, anyway, somebody told me that they heard a rumor that you got a new gun.
This game, even when set to normal difficulty, can be frustrating and tedious on single player. This campaign simply wasn't designed for single player. It was designed for 4-player co-op, which I actually understand. It's meant to be played as Team RWBY, not just one member of Team RWBY. Or Juniper, even though Juniper's a paid DLC, and I don't even want to know who would pay more than the price tag for this game. The multiplayer modes, they're fun in moderation, but they're not great for playing for a long time at once. They're very repetitive, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but after a while it just starts to get boring. There's Horde mode too, but it's pretty much just every zombie game ever, but it's RWBY. This game is fun with friends, and it's not fun by yourself. That aside, it's good to know that this game was developed in-house by Rooster Teeth and not by some third-party company like a lot of other tie-in games. If that were the case, this game, I think it's safe to say, it would be much worse. It's not revolutionary, it's nothing great, but it's not horrible either. I really don't see why there's so much shit surrounding this game. That's really RWBY Grimm Eclipse for you. If you ever do want to buy it, I recommend waiting until it's on sale, unlike what I did. I don't feel like it's completely worth the $15 price tag. If you can get it for like $10, I think that'd be a much better bargain. This whole extremely critical review thing might make this a series, don't know. I'll probably be back to making fun of people in the next video. We just gotta see, I guess. See ya.